Hi, this is Glenn Thomas with Gendatarator again, and we're going to do a real-world example today of how to generate some data and load it into a SQL database. So let's start by looking at the database we want to put the data into. Okay, in this case, we've got an ID established as a primary key, and that's just going to be an integer value, but we need to make sure that we generate a sequence of numbers that are not just random in nature because they need to be unique. We're going to have a customer number, and the customer number is going to be in the format of 6 digits followed by a dash and then 2 alphabetic characters. The first name of the person who's the customer, their last name, the address, the city, the state, which will consist of 2 characters, the date that they joined, and we're going to make sure that this is in a 4-digit year with a dash, 2-digit month, and a 2-digit date, and then whether or not they're a member of the value club. Now this is essentially a Boolean value, but we need to have true or false in there to meet the needs of SQL Server. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to go over to Freeform. Now we'll be toggling back and forth. The first thing that we need to take care of in this case is I want to go ahead and establish an ID. So to do that, I'm going to go into here and I'm going to pick number, and I'm going to pick the value incremental value and tell it to insert. Now this particular token means I for incremental. This would normally start at the value 10. We want to start at 1 and we want to increment by the value 1. We're going to go ahead and put a comma there. Now since we're going to need a comma between everything, I'm going to go ahead and tell it to auto append after insert. We're also going to append single quotes after each piece of data because we're pulling it into SQL as strings. Now the next thing that we need to do is the customer number. In this case, we need to do 999999, which will give us a 6-digit random number followed by a dash and 2 alphabetic characters. Now it won't automatically fill in a comma if you're typing things in, and that's only when you select from the drop downs up here. Okay, let's take a look at the next thing we need. We need a first name and a last name. So we're going to go back to here. We're going to choose name. We're going to choose first name. Now this would be a good point to explain what static means. Static means that when you generate a value, it will be used in the same form throughout that entire generation. So that if you were to go ahead and choose first name and insert, and if you put that same token in here 5 times, it would choose the same name. So if the name Julie were in a row of data, it would be Julie 5 times. If it were used as a dynamic value, which Gendatarator also supports, then you would get 5 different names. And that can be useful if you need to use a piece of data repeatedly in the same row. Okay, we're going to go ahead and choose a last name now and insert that. Now the next thing we're going to go for is we need an address, a city, and a 2-character state. That's very easy. We go down here to address, and right there, very first one, and then we're going to choose the city, and then we're going to choose the state, 2-character uppercase. And then we've got a join date, and we said that was going to be year, month, day. So we're going to go over here to dates, and again, we want a static date. So we're going to choose this format right here, insert it. And then last is the value club. Now we're going to do something a little special here. We're going to choose what's known as a set. And there's several examples of sets that are included in the Gendatarator setup here. We're going to choose playing card suits. Now I'll show you why we're going to do this. What a set does is it gives you a set of values, and Gendatarator will randomly choose from those values to insert for that column. So in this case, if we left it as it is, it would choose from the values hearts, spades, clubs, or diamonds. In our case, we want the values true or false, And that is the format it would take, everything bounded by the pipe operators. Okay, and the last thing we need to do is take that comma off there. Now let's see, we've got everything in there. So now at this point, we're ready to generate our values, but we need to choose SQL. And we're going to do just 50. We don't need a whole lot. Now, when you choose SQL, it's going to ask you for the table name. Probably the easiest way to find this is to go back to your SQL, and we're going to say script table as insert to new query window, and this gives us our format, and right here is our full table name. So we're just going to cut and paste that into here, and we're going to say generate data. Now in this particular case, my system is set up for .sql files to open them in Notepad so that I can work on them. You may be prompted to save it, or you may have it set up to open it with something different. That's fine. We just want to take a look at what it creates. And as you can see, we have commented information that I've left for you at the top, and then we have our actual insert statements all laid out right here. So this is very simple. What we're going to do is we're going to highlight everything we generated. We're going to do a copy, and we're going to go back over to here, and we're just going to paste it. Now if we've done everything correct, we should be able to go up to here and say execute, and we see the rows are affected. Now when we go back over to here, which had nothing in it, and I tell it to execute, we see the numeric IDs, the customer number, and the format that we put in, first name, last name, address, along with the city, 2-digit state, the join date, and whether or not they're a member of the value club. If we go back to the data that we originally copied, we can see that the very first one is Maurice Arias, and there he is right there. So I hope that was helpful in seeing how things go together within Gendatarator. And in our next example, our next tutorial, we'll probably do something a little bit more sophisticated in terms of working with the var values. I'm Glenn Thomas, and thank you for looking at Gendatarator.